This week's debate certainly highlighted the rift between Donald Trump and several of the other 2016 GOP candidates when it comes to immigration. Take a listen.
It does require securing the border. No one disagrees with that. But to build a wall and to deport people, 500,000 a month, would cost hundreds of billions of dollars, Donald. Hundreds of billions of dollars. It would destroy community life. It would tear families apart.
We are spending $200 billion a year on maintaining what we have. We will move them out. The great ones will come back. The good ones will come back.
So could these differences hurt the Republican Party's chances of winning over Latino voters? Joining us now, longtime Bush supporter Al Cardenas, former chairman of the American Conservative Union, former chairman of the Florida Republican Party. Appreciate you being here, sir, on a Saturday. Jeb Bush famously quoted for saying at some point you may have to lose the primary to win the general election. Is that what we're seeing right now? You obviously see Trump very popular because of his stand on immigration with Republicans, maybe not so much with the swing voters.
Well, look, it's just not immigration. We've got a lot of serious challenges in America, and dumbing down the conversation to get on a plus line is going to be short-lived. Eventually, people want problem solvers. They want to identify not just the problem, but the solution. And talking about deporting 11 million people is not only financially, just not feasible, but from a practical standpoint, it's just not going to happen. And when you say you're going to do it in 2 years, what are you going to do? Move the National Guard, tanks, start destroying neighborhoods, tearing down doors? That's the kind of rhetoric and the optics of that rhetoric that would cause us a problem in the general election. Fortunately, we have a few candidates who are being reasonable about it.
You bring up a good point in terms of the optics of talking about those kinds of things. Take a look at the latest poll, feelings towards GOP presidential candidates among Latino Americans. And there's a lot of political pundits who will tell you that this election very well may be won or lost in Colorado, Pennsylvania, Florida by Hispanic voters. And take a look at the numbers here. Obviously, Rubio very to somewhat positive. Bush, 31%, very somewhat positive. There's a lot of numbers on that chart. The biggest numbers in the lower right-hand side of the screen. Trump, very negative or somewhat negative, 70%. Given the theory that Hispanics may be the key to this race for Republicans when it comes to the general election, is giving the nomination to Mr. Trump, if that happens, is that essentially giving the election to the Democrats?
Pretty much. I mean, look at the numbers. There are 50 million plus Hispanics living in America. They got 28 million registered voters. We lost that vote we got 27% of the Hispanic vote. Jeb Bush has run twice. In one election in his state, he got 60% of the Hispanic vote. There are only really 2 or 3 candidates at this stage that can actually win the general election, given the poisoned atmosphere that's been created in the primary. So, the party's not going to be able to get it turned around in a couple of months in 2016. And a number of these candidates, if they win the nomination based on the rhetoric they've used, they're going to have a hard time trying to gain a fair share. And frankly, with the numbers in this election, I don't think if you can't get to 35 or 40% to the Hispanic electorate, there's no route to win in the general election. So by definition right now, a number of these candidates have excluded themselves from possibly winning the general election by just.
And that's the real question in terms of how far to the right can you move on something like immigration to try to win the nomination and then come back to the center to win the general election. Hillary Clinton is certainly trying to capitalize on this and lump every Republican together. Take a listen to what she said in an op-ed piece. I stand with every family who wants to come out of the shadows, she wrote. As president, I will fight to fix our broken immigration system and pass comprehensive immigration reform. I will defend President Obama's executive action protecting dreamers and the parents of citizen children, and will seek to go beyond them, meaning beyond those kinds of executive actions. At that point, how does any Republican win a Hispanic vote when you have someone like Hillary Clinton on the other side offering such a huge promise to Hispanics?
Well, that's easy. I mean, her rhetoric is very extremist. The reason why we don't have immigration reform is we have a president in Barack Obama who's, defied the Constitution, the balance of powers. By these executive actions he's taken, he's isolated the Congress, and we don't have immigration reform. Frankly, right after the past election, there was a good chance. You ask Congressman Ryan, Congressman Diaz-Balart, and others, there was a coalescing of trying to pass immigration reform. The president was asked to hold his horses. He passed this executive order that totally. Not only was it illegal, it circumvented the rights of the Congress to move forward, and so we have a stalemate. Hillary Clinton is spending her time doing precisely the same thing, but doubling down. She's for the same illegal executive order. She's for continuing to insult the Republican leadership. And how is she going to achieve legislation when she's not a problem solver? And so she's in the same identical path as the president. If you're a Hispanic and you want this thing resolved, you want a problem solver who will reach out to Congress and who will come up with a meaningful consensus.
And you'll have to see whether that argument or her argument promising the continuation of the president's policies proves more influential at the ballot box come November. Al Cardenas, appreciate your perspective from down there in Florida. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Thanks.
All the best.